Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This week's video is going to be my 2024 reading wrap up. I figured since I only filmed one monthly reading wrap up this year, I wanted to try and just film a overall what I read in 2024 video, and I'll go through my Goodreads, let you guys know the books that I read, along with a quick review. That way we can hopefully keep this video shorter than longer. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to go over my Goodreads statistics. That way, for people that are interested in that stuff, they're going to get that info as well. So let's jump right in. The first two books that I read this year were rereads. I read House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. Those are the first two books in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I read those in preparation for the third book that came out later that month. But I rated both of these books upon the reread 5 stars. I believe I rated them 5 stars when I first read them. I overall really loved the characters. I loved the vibes of the book. I loved getting everyone's point of view. And I loved where the first two books took us. So next up, I listened to None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, and I also rated this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I listened to it as an audiobook because any book that has a podcast element for me needs to be listened to. Next up, we have Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Marer. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.75 stars, and I just thought that it was really well done. There's this little tiny frog, Kingsley, and he is the cutest thing because he can only communicate by holding up a sign, and it only has one word on it, but his one word's are hilarious. Next up, I read the first 3 books and the novella in the Finley Donovan series. So I loved these. I gave them all 4 stars, and then I gave the novella a 3 star. Hilarious. I also listened to all these on audio. Absolutely loved it all. Really good. Really recommend this series. If you just want something fun, quick, lighthearted, while also having some depth, definitely love this series. So then I read When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. So I truly don't remember a heck of a lot about this book. I really enjoyed the first, I want to say 40-ish% of the book, and then everything after that wasn't a huge fan. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars, but thinking back on it, because I literally cannot remember like anything about it, I would probably drop it down to a 3. Next up, I listened to Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Citano. I was looking for things like Finley Donovan because I loved it so much, and so I picked this book up. I gave this book a 2.5. I did not like it. I thought it was very boring. I did not like the comedy style in it. I just wasn't all that interested. And again, I listened to it on audio, so I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan. But after that, I read House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. So this was the 3rd book in the Crescent City series, again, following Bryce Quinlan and her entire journey. On Goodreads, I haven't even rated this book, and this is where my book slump began. So I filmed a very long, complete spoiler vlog for this book. The rough cut was like 2 hours, and I dive into a lot in that, and then I never published it. I barely finished editing it. I quit YouTube for a few months, sold my laptop, and pretty much stopped reading fantasy. So if that doesn't tell you how I feel about this book, I don't know what does. So, yeah, if I were to give it a rating, I would probably give it a 2. Only because I still like the characters, but this book was utter chaos. So after that, I was finishing my reread of Harry Potter. So I read Order of the Phoenix and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Gave Order of the Phoenix 4 stars, Half-Blood Prince 5 stars. Absolutely love Harry Potter. Then after that, I read a Hermione fan fiction. I read Draco Malfoy and the Mortifying Ordeal of Being in Love. And you guys, this book, it is by Is This Self-Care? Quite literally one of my favorite fan fictions ever. I only gave it a 4 stars, but I think about this fan fiction quite literally almost every day, so I would probably bump it up to like a 4.5. After that, I read Rock in a Hard Place. This is by Juliana Smith. This is the 3rd book in the Wells family series. I received this as an ARC. I gave it a 3-star. I honestly just feel like I wasn't in the mood to read this book because I do typically really love Juliana Smith's writing. I read the Alliance series by S.J. Tilley. This is like a mafia interconnected standalone. So you're following Nero, King, Dom, and Hans, and each book is its own person, and then it's like interconnected, so they're all kind of in each other's lives, like found family type thing. Like between a 3 and a 3.75. My favorite one was King. I love the kidnapping trope. They're all plus size main characters. All these books are so good. They are so fast paced. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. I read them so fast. They got me out of my reading slump. To finish up my Harry Potter reread, I read Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and I gave that book 5 stars. As we all know, love HP and loved that book to death. Then I read the 4th book. Well, I listened to the 4th book in the Finley Donovan series, which is Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. I gave that book a 4-star. Loved it. Love Finley Donovan. Absolutely loved it. So I guess the 5th book is the one that just came out. I don't know why I thought it was the 4th, but either way, loved it. Then I read the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. Overall, I would say this is probably like a 3.5 to a 4-star read for me. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know what my issue was at the beginning of the year. I just truly don't think I was in the mood to read a lot of things, and I just wanted to read but just couldn't get into books, and I listened to all of them on audio. Overall, I really enjoyed it. Then I read One for the Money by Janet Ivanovich. I was again trying to get that Finley Donovan feel, and I heard that Stephanie Plum series was really good. I ended up giving this a 3-star. I truly don't even remember what it's about, so I couldn't tell you. That probably speaks more to the book than I would think. But overall, I remember enjoying my time, just not falling in love with it. Then I read my first sci-fi of the year. I ended up reading The 3 Body Problem by Liu Xian because I ended up watching the Netflix series and loving the Netflix series. I was like, you know what? Let me pick up the book. And the book was really good. I didn't understand some of it because it is... A, it's translated, and B, some of the concepts are a little bit more complicated, but overall, I definitely thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I didn't enjoy it as much as the series, but it was definitely overall still a good read. Next up, we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I gave this book a 5 stars. This is part of the Part of Your World series by her, and as we all know, love that series so much, and the way that this book connects to that book, jaw on the floor when I found out, and I was obsessed with it. Next up, I read Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I ended up giving that book a 3.75 star. It's a lit fic. It was overall really good. This was my first R.F. Kuang book, and I really enjoyed it. It was very fast-paced. I read it very quickly, and overall definitely enjoyed. Next up, I read The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. A lot of people talked about this book. A lot of people rated it high. I wanted to check it out. I ended up giving it a 3 stars. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it was just very mid. It was okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I was in my lit fig era, apparently. Next up, I read A Man Called Uva by Frederick Bachman. I watched the movie. Did I watch the movie first? Yeah, I watched the movie. Fell in love with the movie. That movie, oh my god, if you've not watched that movie quite literally I sobbed the entire movie. You can actually ask my husband, watch it with him, quite literally sobbed the entire movie. Overall, it was a really heartwarming book. I definitely just didn't think it was like the best book of the year for me, but it was definitely really good. So like I gave it a 3.25. Next up, I read Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano, and I rated this book a 4 star. I loved this book. I really enjoyed the writing. It was really well done, and I really just like the characters. Like when I read literary fiction, I'm reading it for the characters, and the characters in this book quite literally felt just so well done, and I absolutely loved it. Next up, I read Sycamore Row by John Grisham. I gave this book a 4 star. I loved this book. I loved our main character. Loved the legal aspect of it because I know what they're talking about. And it was just so interesting. Overall, really enjoyed. And if you like legal thrillers, I would definitely recommend checking out this series. I haven't read the first one yet, but this is the second book in the series, but you don't need to read really the first book in the series. It gives you a little more background, but it's definitely not necessary because I didn't read it and still really enjoyed the second book. We got to just a short little rom-com, Worst Wingman Ever by Abby Jimenez. I gave it a 3 stars. I honestly don't remember anything about what it's about, just that it's a short little rom-com, and I just thought it was really cute, and that's all I have to say about that. Next up, we have A Funny Story by Emily Henry. I gave this a 3.75. Overall, it was good. It was well written. It's an Emily Henry book, but I just didn't overall connect to the characters. So that's why it's just not rated any higher. But overall, writing is good. Story was good. It was definitely funny. And I really liked the couple overall. All right, you guys. So next up, we have some of quite literally one of my favorite series of my life so far. We have the Addicted Calloway Sister series by Miss Krista and Becca Ritchie. Series as a whole, I'm giving it 6 stars. Absolutely loved it. Amazing. The characters, the found family, the storyline, everything. There's not one thing about this book series that I don't like. The characters in this book build out to be so phenomenal that by the time you get to the last book, you are so invested in these characters. I sobbed pretty much the entire final epilogue book, and you feel like these characters are your family. You've read 10 books of them. And even if, because there's the Addicted series, which is Lily and Lo, and then there's the Calloway Sister series, which is Daisy, Reich, and then Rose and Connor, and each sister gets their own books. I'll give you my individual ratings for each of the books. So I'm gonna go in order. So Addicted to You, I gave 4 stars. Ricochet, I gave 4 stars. Addicted for Now, 4 stars. Kiss the Sky, which is the Calloway Sisters, I gave 4.5. Hot House Flower, I gave a 3.5. Thrive, I gave a 4.25. Addicted After All, I gave 5 stars. Fuel the Fire, 4.75. Long Way Down, 5 stars. And then Some Kind of Perfect, 6 stars. So all of these books are amazing. It can take a book or two to get into it. My favorite character, I am #Lilo. I love them. Their character development is quite literally amazing. And they're my favorite characters in the entire series. I'm just going to put that out there. So absolutely love. Okay, and then after that, I read Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I gave this a 4.25 stars. I had so much fun with it. It was such a fun concept. Definitely really enjoyed all of like the video game aspects of it. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I love the characters. I just didn't want to put it down. It was very fast-paced, very enjoyable read. Next up, I read In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. I loved the first half of this book. I did a reading vlog on this. The first half of this book was amazing. It was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. Definitely enjoyed it. I really liked the ending, but just the last half definitely fell flat for me. I was gifted an arc of Dishonestly Yours by Kristen and Becca Ritchie. This is the first book in their new series, and obviously because I had just finished the Addicted Calloway Sister series, I was like, yes, please, anything more with their writing, because I love their writing. Overall, it was really good. I love the characters. The ending of this book got me, and I keep trying to get the arc for the second book. So if you guys see this, I really would like the arc of the second book, because I don't think it comes out for a while, a couple months. But the ending really got me. It was really good. I rated it a 4 star. I really enjoyed it. I could definitely feel the connection to the characters, because toward the end, other characters kind of start to come in and you get more of that like found family, and it's just really good. All right, so next up we read Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I gave this book a 4 stars. I love the main love interest in this book. And this book is like very like Wattpad-y, like if anything wrong could happen, it happens. It is crazy. The twists in this book, insane. Overall, it was very fast paced. I had a great time reading it, and I definitely thoroughly enjoyed. Like I said, if you like that like crazy like twists and turns and like jaw drop moments. Definitely check this out. Next up, we have The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. This was their new release this year. I gave this a 3 stars. Overall, it was definitely a good time. I loved the characters. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like groundbreaking, but it was definitely a fun time. Next up, we have The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I gave this book a 3.75. This is definitely magical realism. It's a very like emotional book, but overall very, very good and very fun. Read Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in the Chestnut Springs series. This is nanny and single dad trope. I gave it a 3 star. Wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was just very middle of the road. It was a fun time. I really enjoyed Cade and Willa. They were definitely a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed the son in the book. He is adorable. I do plan on continuing this series. I don't know when, but overall it was definitely a fun cowboy romance vibe for the summer. Then I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I loved this book. I gave it a 4 stars. It is YA rom-com, I would say, and you're following Liz and Wes, and they are quite literally adorable. All of the rom-com movie references that are in this book are amazing. Loved it. Definitely got me to watch a few more rom-coms that I haven't seen. But overall, it was so fast-paced, such a fun time. Then we have A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I gave this book a 3.5 stars. I overall really enjoyed the story. I just felt disconnected, and I felt like the romance was not really there. The concept of the book is amazing. It's about the main character. She pretty much is driving to this retreat that she goes on with her friends, but none of her friends can go. She's just going by herself. And then while she's there, she ends up having car trouble, and it's like raining so hard. She's like, well, I'll just stop, in this little town for a night. And it ends up being the town in her favorite romance series. It's like all the characters except for this one guy who's like out of place. And I had a good time reading it, but the ending just fell flat for me. Next up, we have Snow Globe by Soo Young Park. I gave this book a 3 star. Enjoyed it. Liked the beginning. Ending was a little rushed, in my opinion. And I don't quite know how to explain this. It's a sci-fi dystopian book. This journey, and let me tell you what, there are some twists and turns in this book that I was not expecting. It was definitely very, very interesting. I just think that the ending was very, very rushed, and I think that it could have been done differently. Whew, this next book I read, this one was very weird. Pen Pal by J.T. Geisinger. I gave this book a 2.5 star. I have a reading vlog on this, so if you guys want my in-depth thoughts, definitely check that out, because this is interesting. It is wild, this book. The ending, completely unexpected. Would I recommend it? Not really. But if you want to enjoy a wild ride that you are going to be confused on for a lot of it, definitely check it out. The name in this book, the what are they called? The pet name, not good at all. Sex scenes, not good. I was not a fan. Just questionable, really. And next up, I read one of my favorite books of the year, which is Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. Stevie and Xander, their story, love them. This book was not long enough, in my opinion. I just don't even know how to explain this book. Just my review. I just said yes, yes, and yes. I absolutely love this book. V and Z, which are their nicknames, are everything. I love their relationship and cannot wait to continue to hear about their story in the rest of the books. And I'm so excited to continue reading the series. It was just so good. Again, I filmed a reading vlog on it. Next up was The Right Move, which is the second book by Liz Tom Ford. I gave this a 3.5. I really loved, if I keep looking over here, my Goodreads is over here. I loved the two main characters, Indy and Ryan. Ryan is Stevie's brother, and Indy is Stevie's best friend. And I love the writing, and Ryan Shea is quite literally the acts of service king. but I definitely enjoyed Mile High a lot more. So it's like roommates to friends to lovers. It's very, very good, and I really enjoyed, again, the writing was great, but it just wasn't my typical like tropes that I enjoy. Then I finished up the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read Killer Instinct, All In, Bad Blood. I gave Killer Instinct 4 stars, All In 5 stars, Bad Blood 5 stars. And then I also read the novella 12, which I gave 4.5 stars. Love this series. Criminal Minds, but young adult. And that's all you need to know. There's some slight young adult romance. It's quite literally like Criminal Minds, where there's like an overarching plot, but then each book follows a separate little mini plot, which leads us to the bigger plot. And it was so, so good. Absolutely loved it. The characters phenomenal. The writing, great. Definitely recommend checking it out if you're looking for a fun series. Just a very fast-paced, fun. It was very like similar to like how her Inheritance Game series was, where it was just fast-paced, fun read. Then I got on a little bit of like a mystery thriller kick. I read Pretty Girls by Karen Slater. I gave this book a 3.75. This book was definitely on the darker side. So I just said that the story was insane. It was a little bit predictable, but overall it was a book that I couldn't put down because I needed to know what was happening, but I thought there would be more twists. So I remember reading it. It was very, very interesting. It just wasn't the best thriller that I've ever read, but I would definitely recommend checking out if you like thrillers. And then after that, I picked up Local Woman Missing. I gave this a 3 star. It was good. The twist at the end was great, but it was just very slow. Like, I felt like there wasn't too much happening. You get a couple different point of views, and like the concept of it is interesting. There's women that go missing, and then they're trying to like connect the different women. And there's like a husband involved, and then a daughter's like missing, and so it's definitely very interesting. It just was a little bit more slower paced than I like for my thrillers, but the ending definitely got me. Like, I was very surprised by that ending. But it definitely was not my favorite. And I read Keep It in the Family by John Mars. I gave this book a 3.5. The beginning was very, very, very slow, but the end was great. I ended up completely liking the end of the book, and how everything connected was super interesting, and I overall liked John Mars' writing. I just thought that the beginning was a little bit slow, and so it's very like psychological, like mind twist, like it's interesting. It was good writing. But like I said, the beginning was definitely just a little slow for me. Then we have one of my favorite books of the year. That would be The Wedding People by Alison Espech. I gave this a 4.5 stars. But the more I think about it, I think about this book often, and I would probably give it a 5 star. Like the trigger warnings, it definitely can. There's definitely some dark topics. Overall, it is very funny, and the concept of the book overall is funny. You're following our main character. She's having issues within her marriage, and so she ends up going to this hotel in Newport, renting the presidential suite with certain plans. And while she's there, she ends up realizing a wedding party booked out the entire hotel, and she somehow got a suite, and she ends up telling the bride what she plans to do while she's there, and the bride's like, I'm not letting that happen. And then so the bride becomes very involved, and like the comedy between the bride and the main character is hilarious, and they just are very honest with each other because they don't know each other and they aren't planning to know each other. So overall, the book was just really, really great. It was such, the writing, the quotes, and just everything. The main character, Phoebe, she was just very relatable. Like, overall, it was just such a great read. I recommend this book to a lot of people, but like I said, definitely check the trigger warnings. Alright, so next up we read Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I gave this book a 4.5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I listened to this on audio. The audiobook was phenomenal, and it was just a very powerful piece of writing, and I loved the characters in the book. There is just so much packed into this book, but it was definitely, again, another favorite read of the year for sure. I read a couple of dark books. I read The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I always read Frida when I just want like a quick book that I can read. I literally read this book in less than 24 hours. Is it the most wonderful piece of writing? No, but it's 4.25 stars for me. I really enjoyed it. The ending was wild. I don't really know how to describe this book, but it is definitely like suspense, thriller. You're like, what the actual heck is going on? And it's like a student teacher vibe. Overall, interesting concept. Writing was just very fast paced, and the ending, if you've read this book, you know the ending is wild. Definitely recommend if you just want something fast, quick, and easy to read. Then I read Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This book was wild. I gave it a 3.25. You're essentially following our two main characters. One is getting married to the main girl's sister, these two hate each other. They can't stand each other, and they end up getting kidnapped together and locked into a basement, and they need to do like unspeakable things, and they end up developing a relationship. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because it's best to go in as blind as possible with this book. It was an interesting read. It was a heavy read. But if you like darker romances, heavy reads, I would definitely check it out. Just definitely check the trigger warnings before you jump into this book. Then I read My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This again was a student teacher book. Very, very dark. My review, so I gave this book a 4-star. And I said, this was such a well-written story and truly shows how predators can convince these young kids that what they're doing isn't wrong. It was interesting to read about the events in Vanessa's point of view and how she saw the relationship as a child and how she continued to see the relationship as she grew into a teenager to adulthood, along with the healing process. Overall, it was a very well-written novel, because you're getting flashbacks to when she was in high school, when she was a teenager, and then her current adult life. And you're seeing how she's viewed the relationship throughout the entire process, and you're really getting her, you're picking her brain. And overall, it was a very interesting read. Again, very dark. Check the trigger warnings. Not for the faint of heart, but definitely a very interesting read for sure. Then I read Caught Up and Play Along, which were the next two books in the Windy City series. So Caught Up follows Kai, and these two are brothers. Kai and then the main character Isaiah in Play Along are brothers. So Caught Up is nanny trope. Overall, it was really good. Again, in my review, I said I loved the first 30%. And the last 40%, but the middle was good, but just not great. I had a hard time holding my attention. But the end was phenomenal. I love the main characters, and the kid in this book is freaking adorable. He is quite literally the cutest thing I've ever seen. Obsessed with the series and the writing, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So again, 4 stars for that one. And then I gave Play Along 4.5, 4.75. I really enjoyed Isaiah and Kennedy. They are so cute. It's marriage of something. They end up getting married in Vegas and staying married. So it's kind of like a marriage of convenience type thing. Overall, Isaiah is phenomenal. I love Kennedy. My review says, definitely my second favorite book in the series. Loved Isaiah and Kennedy. They were so perfect for each other and had me swooning for sure. Liz's writing is just truly phenomenal. If you have not read the Windy City series, you need to read the Windy City series. I read The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. My review says, I honestly am not sure my feelings for this book. I really enjoyed the beginning, but just slowly started to lose interest. I ended up finishing the last 50% on audio. I did enjoy the audiobook. I think it was just not the right time for me to read it. It was a good story and I enjoyed the characters. I think it was definitely more of a me problem than the book. I honestly don't even remember what this book is about. I just know that it's like about a magical bookshop, but that's all I remember. 3 stars. Then I read Margot's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe. I heard that this was supposed to be like hilarious, awesome book. So it's a lit fic. It was an interesting read. Again, my review, I said this was overall an okay time. It was not as laugh out loud funny as people made it out to be. The concept and characters were interesting and it kept me engaged through the entirety of the book. It just didn't make me feel anything. It was a solid read, not bad, just not great. Then we have Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. I really enjoyed this book. It's a thriller. This was such an interesting, fast-paced book. It made for a great audiobook. For 90% of the story, I was trying to figure out how things were connected, and honestly, I love that I didn't get it till the end. The ending of this book was so good. Definitely recommend this as an audiobook for sure. Then I read Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.25 stars. This was my first Annabelle Monaghan book. Very like Abby Jimenez, Emily Henry vibes, and so I'm very excited to read more of her books. And it also has like a lot of like lit fic. Like that's how I see Abby Jimenez, Emily Henry as well, is that they're very like lit fic with romance subplots. So for my review, I said such a great book. I absolutely loved the writing. It flowed so beautifully. It was more than the romance, but boy, did I love the romance. Ethan is absolutely amazing, and I also loved Allie's kids in this story. Definitely pick it up. Great story and a fast-paced read. Again, overall, really, really enjoyed. Then we had The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. This was, again, one of those ones I read this one less than 12 hours. But 3.75 stars. Super fast-paced and interesting. Typical Frida book. I'm excited to read another one of hers soon. But yeah, the ending of this one got me too. Her endings are wild. Overall, really enjoyed it. Then I read Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This book is a fantasy romance. Again, as you can see, I haven't read any fantasy romance. I was like very excited about this book, and then it was kind of a letdown. So I gave it a 3-star. I said, overall, great book. I enjoyed the ending much more than the beginning or the middle. It took me a while to get through the book. At first, I enjoyed it, but around the 100-ish page mark, it felt like work picking up the book, and I just didn't want to. I think it's more of a me issue. But again, ending was good, fast-paced, definitely some questionable things, but it just wasn't for me. Even thinking back on it, like I probably would change the rating to like a 2.5, 2.75. I liked the characters, but the whole storyline of this book takes place in less than a week. And for me, I'm very like, I like when characters like take a long time to like get to know each other. Like I'm very more like I need to know that they are together like on an emotional level, not just a physical level, and this book was just very like physical level oriented. I liked her main character and her relationship with her sister, but yeah, I don't know, wasn't a huge fan. Next up, I read another favorite of the year, 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I'm just going to read my review for this one. So I gave it a 4.5. I said, wow, what a well-written, enjoyable book. I also filmed a vlog for this book, in case anyone wants to go check that out. I felt the same way when I read Fairy Tale by Stephen King. The writing is just so fast-paced, and even the mundane is never boring. The book was 850 pages, and I still feel like I could read forever about the journey of the main character. This is sci-fi. It's about time travel, about the assassination of JFK, and there's a subplot of romance, and it's very like, there's a lot of like literary fiction, historical fiction. Overall, it's such a good book. The writing was phenomenal. Definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you don't typically read Stephen King. This was definitely a really good book. The audiobook was good. I read the book on my Kindle as well. Very enjoyable. Then I tried to remain on my Stephen King kick, and I picked up Billy Summers. Gave it a 3.5. I am not sure what to say about the book. I enjoyed it. The beginning threw me off because it was in third person, and I wasn't a huge fan, but I did really like the story, but it kind of felt like the first 250 pages were just setting up for plot for the rest of the book, which was not the best idea in my opinion. I liked the characters in the book and really enjoyed the ending, but the beginning was tough for me to get through. If you like Stephen King's writing, I would definitely suggest picking it up. But yeah, the beginning was just such a different vibe than the end, and a lot of reviews say the same thing. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I like the concept. It's about a hitman who takes his last job, and things go off the rails pretty rapidly once you hit that certain like game-changing point in the book. Up, I read just a graphic novel, Garlic and the Witch. It's the second book. Not really too much to say about it. It was a fun graphic novel. I really enjoyed the first one, so I gave it 4 stars. Then I read the Boys of Tommen series. So I read Binding 13, Keeping 13, Saving 6, Redeeming 6, and Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh. Individual ratings. Binding 13 and Keeping 13 were 5 stars. Saving 6 and Redeeming 6 were 3.5 stars. And Taming 7 was a 4.75. So Johnny and Gibbsy, I love those two characters. So Johnny's book, was phenomenal. I love Johnny and Shannon. I quite literally, one of my favorite, Binding and Keeping 13 were two of my favorite books of the entire year. And I absolutely adored them. I love the found family in The Boys of Tommen. And it's really hard to like describe this book. But in my review, I just said, love this book. It was something I cannot put into words. The characters, fabulous. The writing, fabulous. The drama, so sad, but added so much tension to the story. And I would read a million books on these characters. Like, absolutely love them. And then for Keeping 13, I said, honestly, have not read a book that has ran me through the emotional ringer like this in so long. It was like, gave me Addicted Callaway vibes. I am in love with these characters, their relationships, friendships, family, everything. Seeing what they've gone through and are going through and how they seriously are also interconnected into each other's lives. Again, if you love the Addicted Callaway, you need to read this series. Absolutely loved it. And then you get the next two books are Joey, which is Shannon's brother, and Aoife, which is Joey's girlfriend. I didn't not like the books, but they weren't my vibe. So for my review, I said, this is for Saving Six. I said, I really like Joey and Aoife together and love their relationship, but I didn't feel the connection. I didn't feel connected. I felt that the story was choppy and we were just getting these scenes, days in their lives. I just didn't feel how I felt when I read the first two books in the series. So it just felt like we were getting scenes of their relationship because this essentially takes place in the past. So you're just getting like quick little scenes of like little moments and memories that they had together, and it just made it feel choppy to me. So then for Redeeming Six, I said pretty much same review from Saving Six. I overall liked the book and the story. I honestly just did not connect to Joey and Aoife. And then I read Taming Seven. It's about Claire and Gibbsy. And I said for this one, I am between a 4.75 and a 5. The beginning of this book was the usual Claire and Gibbsy. I was so happy to be with all the characters again because it's a very found family. Once we started getting information about Gibbs and learning more about the past of these characters, I was so shook. It just goes to show that sometimes the brightest people have the hardest times. And also, I'm kind of beyond pissed at one character at the end of this book. If you know, you know. So I don't know if I can read their book without throwing it. But all in all, love the story, love the characters, and will definitely be impatiently waiting for the second book. So Binding and Keeping 13 were two of my favorites of the year, favorites of all time, like Addicted Callaway level. Taming 7 was really, really, really great. Just wasn't a huge fan of Saving and Redeeming 6. Okay, you guys, we are nearing the end. My batteries keep dying. I'm like switching back and forth between them because I haven't used my camera in so long. But anyways, let's try to get through this. So after Taming 7, I read The Deal, which is the first off-campus series. Talkie romance, college. I gave it a 3-star. It was okay. I didn't fall in love with it like everyone else did, and I won't be continuing this series. I really did enjoy the two main characters, but I just didn't really connect with them, and it just didn't give me want to continue vibes, that's all. Then after that, I started my Harry Potter reread. So I read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Loved it. As we all know, love Harry Potter. I listened to Dinner for Vampires, Life on a Cult TV Show, while also being in a cult. This is by Bethany Joy Lenz. I listened to this, I think I said on audio. So good. It's about, she was on One Tree Hill and she pretty much didn't know that she was like in a cult and like didn't realize it. It was such an interesting story because I love One Tree Hill and I love me some Haley. So it was overall just such a good audiobook to listen to. I gave it a 4 stars. It was very sad, but it was like very interesting and really gripping at times. Like you're like, what is going on? Like, and like the red flags, like, whew, when you're in it, clearly you don't see it because there was definitely some red flags that were happening, but definitely enjoyed this memoir. And I listened to Listen for the Lie by A.B. Tentera. Really enjoyed the audiobook, really enjoyed our main character. It was a really great and interesting mystery book. Overall, it was really, really good. I didn't predict the ending, but it was just really good. I definitely recommend listening to it on audio. Again, I gave it 4 stars. For that, I read another Hermione fanfiction. I read The Right Thing to Do, which is by Love's Big Cat 8, which is the first book in the Rights and Wrongs series because her third book in that series, The Auction, is being turned into an official published novel the same month as that one by Bridget Knightley. So I wanted to get through the first couple of the fan fictions before they're taken off AO3 so that I can read them and enjoy. I gave it a 3 stars. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I just wasn't in love with it. Like, it wasn't the Draco and Hermione that I love, but it's a very popular series and the writing was really, really great. And so I'm very, very excited. I am definitely going to continue this series for sure. This one just wasn't for me. And I read My December Darling by Lauren Asher. This was a Christmas novella. I gave it 3 stars. Barely remember what it's about. Enjoy the 2 main characters, but it just kind of fell flat for me. It wasn't connected to the characters and definitely was not my favorite book. It really was not even really about Christmas. It was just about her twin sister was getting married on like during the Christmas season. And main character doesn't get along with like the best man, and they end up obviously needing to be around each other, and I just felt like everything was like very fast paced because it's a novella. I just didn't feel very connected to the characters, but the writing was really good, so I might want to check out more of Lauren Asher's work. Next up, final 3 guys. Next up, I read The One by John Mars. Gave this book a 4 stars. This is about like DNA matching and finding your perfect match with DNA. And let me tell you what, you get multiple POVs in this book, and how this whole perfect match thing can mess with people's lives. Freaking interesting. Thoroughly enjoyed this book from start to finish. Quick chapters, multiple POVs, interesting plot lines, overall interesting concept. Definitely recommend checking this out. It's more of a suspense thriller than like a murder mystery type thriller or anything like that. Like, but the characters in this book, so freaking interesting, and seeing how like this perfect match DNA like affects each different character is so interesting. After that, I read The Happy Ever Playlist by Abby Jimenez. This is the second book in the Friend Zone series. I gave it a 4.25. Love a good Abby Jimenez book. I love Jason and Sloane. I thought it was funny, fast-paced, and just a really good romance book in general. Again, it had dealt with a lot more themes than just the romance, and it was really, really interesting. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I just love Abby's writing, and I will pretty much read anything that she will write. And then the final book of the year, and my favorite book of the year, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Stormlight Archive series, and let me just read you guys my review. I have no words. The writing, the world building, the characters. This book 100% deserves the high rating on Goodreads. I was so encapsulated and enthralled by this book and so in love with the characters. One of my favorite books for the year, for sure. Definitely loved this book. I have no idea how to describe this book to anyone other than we are following multiple characters. It's an epic fantasy where you're trying to figure out things like about the world, about this war that's going on. Like, why is the war actually happening? And who are we actually fighting? And learning so much about the past and the present and the history, and how the history can be so misconstrued by scribes that don't put the correct information down, and how history can be hidden. And I just uploaded an over an hour long spoiler filled reading vlog for this. So if you don't care about spoilers, or if you've already read it, definitely check that video out. I'm currently on the second book, and I'm loving it. I just love these characters. Like, I quite literally think about these characters 24/7. When I'm not reading the book, that's all I want to be doing. And I love talking about the book. I love telling people that I'm reading the book. I did not think I was going to love the book anywhere near as much as I did. I was so scared to read it because it's over 1,000 pages long. And I had never read an epic fantasy before. But let me tell you what, it is phenomenal. And I am quite literally obsessed with it, and I have no other words for it because it is just amazing. It is just amazing. Check it out if you like epic fantasy or fantasy at all, and you've been thinking about stepping into epic fantasy. Please check it out. Brandon Sanderson, chef's kiss. It is quite literally like there's just so much that happens in this book. Like, oh my god, and I went in completely blind. I knew nothing about this book, so good. So good. Literally my favorite book of the year. Let's quickly, my battery is at 3%, so let's quickly go over my 2024 Goodreads stats. Books read 97, pages read 42,685. Shortest book was The Worst Wingman Ever by Abby Jimenez. Longest book was Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings. Average book length was 448 pages. My average rating was 3.8 stars. My highest rated book on Goodreads was The Way of Kings. And yeah, overall, great reading year. I found some amazing series, some amazing characters that I love, and just some amazing books that are going to be carrying on into next year, like the Stormlight Archive. And I'm so excited, and I'm so happy that you guys are on this journey with me. I had a video that went more viral than I definitely thought it would, and I've gained a lot of new subscribers. So if you guys are watching, thank you so much. And please, as always, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to catch you guys at my next video.